I have been so excited to start this video. Number one, because I think you're gonna love it. Number two, because it's like an annual tradition at this point to film this exact week in January. Also, number three, it's the Bang's first time in the vlog. They're new. I'm still figuring them out. But hi, I'm Anna. I am a 25-year-old, for one more day actually, my birthday's tomorrow, 25-year-old social worker working in a children's hospital. And this week we're doing 7 days in the life of a social worker. Pew, 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 pew. I've always felt like this is a good week to film because this upcoming Saturday is our service of remembrance, and that's the one that I was saying, like, it's an annual tradition to film at this point, just because I feel like it's one of the more out of routine things. Like, it's something I work towards a portion of the year. So we've got several things going on. Today, number one being it's Martin Luther King Day. It's a holiday for the hospital. I'm working the holiday. I picked it up from a friend. It's beneficial to me because I get paid time and a half for working today, but then I also get 8 hours of like holiday hours that go in my little PTO bank that I get to use later. Working the holiday is different than my usual job in that covering the whole hospital and the whole ED with other social workers, but I'm not just on my floor like I usually would be. I'm everywhere. Could be slow, could be busy, truly have no idea. What I do know, it is so freaking cold outside, so I'm gonna brave the outdoors, make it to the hospital, and we're gonna have a good week. Eventually I'll stop talking about the bangs. I do not feel confident in the updo. So on holidays, what makes social work in the hospital different is that instead of being on my regular floor doing my regular work, I'm helping provide coverage for the whole hospital and the whole ED. I think there were 4 of us to start, and then 2 people came on a mid shift, and then 2 people came on like an afternoon to 10 shift, and then there'll be overnight people too. So we just cover like what needs to be taken care of in a day, which is very different than my usual flow of work, since my usual flow is an ICU and acute care that's like a much longer term, longitudinal type social work, preparing for complex discharges, like that kind of thing. Whereas whenever I'm covering the whole hospital, it's more of the like general pediatric things that come up. So today that looked like doing a few just like high risk screens on certain types of injuries that we have to look at just to ensure that there's no child protection issues. For example, if someone comes in with a broken bone, that very much can be just like a regular childhood injury. It also could be a sign of abuse, depending on the situation, the type of break, like all of those things. So I didn't have anything that was actually concerning today. I just had several things I needed to like talk to the physicians, talk to the nurse, review the chart, make sure everything checked out, and all of my things that I was looking at today were just normal childhood injuries with no child protection concerns. I did a little bit of communication with Child Protection Agency for cases that were like already involved that aren't my cases but just needed like updates or something today. And then I called a few parents to get them connected with resources that they had asked to be referred to. It was a healthy, productive like throughout the day. I wouldn't say I felt like slow or like I was looking for things to do, but it was a manageable workload, also because I can just do what I can do today, and then everybody else like helps and picks up, you know, of the things that need to get done. And then all the regular social workers are back tomorrow, so they'll be doing all of their own cases again. And same for me, whenever I go back tomorrow, I'll be actually like on my specialty floor doing my actual social work. So I'm gonna go shower, and then have I told you that today's our 1-year wedding anniversary? Super different day today compared to 1 year ago. Zach's making dinner. We're not going out to dinner tonight. My birthday's tomorrow, so I feel like we should go out to dinner tomorrow for my birthday, but I haven't decided where. Probably should decide that. But we're gonna have the dinner that Zach makes, and then we have a bottle of champagne. We actually have 2 bottles of champagne from our wedding that we've been saving that we're gonna open. We're gonna open one. We have 2 of them. We're gonna open one of them. Do you think it stays fine? I mean, it's been in the fridge the whole time.
It should. It was up right in the fridge. In a cold.
Anna! Oh, wait.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
Do I think it's gonna be fine a year from now? No.
So we gotta have both bottles tonight. Mm-hmm. Bottle per. I forget, you untwist this and that's how it gets looser and then the thing pops off?
And then just,
Balcony?
Yeah. Or you're gonna like press it up with your thumb, right?
Right. I think I've done this once or twice. And I'm not being facetious with that. I genuinely think that I have done this once or twice in my life. Alrighty. I always get scared. Can I just like do this like this and it just comes off?
Oh yeah, maybe. Nice job.
Thanks. One year down. That's actually a lot. I forgot what cup you're holding. Going crazy. Like, I forgot that despite you holding that cup, that doesn't mean that that's a champagne pour. Oh wait, that's cool. I asked Zach if he wanted to do another year married, and he said yes. We did my birthday leg day. It just happened to be leg day. I feel like that's not really a birthday activity, but pushed hard on legs, and then I got my birthday drink. Waited like 20 minutes for it, despite doing a mobile order. It's fine. It's a flat white with non-fat milk and blonde espresso, and I got pistachio sauce in here, which I was kind of worried about. Like, I felt like it could go either way. It tastes good. I'm liking it. Zach's making birthday breakfast out there, and I entered the lottery because I figure on my birthday, what, your chances go up of winning the lottery, right? So if I do, just know this is the moment that really changed everything. I'm gonna get ready for work so that then I can just like sit and have a little bit of a slower morning. Starbucks kind of put us back on time a little bit, but the slow morning that I can have before heading into work. My dishwasher is going, and I'm fearful that it's loud, so I apologize if it is, but I'm getting ready to head into work. As I mentioned yesterday, today I'm back to my like regular floor doing my regular work, which is nice, and I kind of already have like a sneak peek of it since I did work yesterday, so I know that I'm going to be doing some follow-up about like transportation assistance today. I know I'm going to be meeting with at least one family to just provide education on like any resource that may be helpful to them whenever they're preparing to go home with their child for the first time, because there's lots of like follow-up appointments and making sure you can get formula and like medications and things like that. So just making sure that they know what's available to them and like can help get established with anything that's helpful. So I know I'm going to be doing that today. And then I also have a new supervisor who will be shadowing either me or a coworker today. So might be getting shadowed just because she's like onboarding. So she's like learning what different people do in different areas. So that could be me today. Fun birthday activity. But other than that, this is it's the beginning of like one of the normal days of this week. Tomorrow's not normal. I think Thursday and Friday are relatively normal. And then Saturday's not normal. So a nice even spread. This is my birthday outfit today. Got my pink figs on, classic. Got my Swiftly Tech long sleeve on. And then I think this is maybe it's Rulu from Lululemon. It's just a quarter zip that I love because it gives an extra layer. And I left my Patagonia at work yesterday, which will be great whenever I get to work, but is not very helpful to get me to work. I don't think it's as cold today though as it has been the past couple of days. We hit a wind chill of 13 yesterday. Right now it's 28, feels like 22. So that is cold, yeah. That is cold. Do you like my cheez-it pool float? One of my sweet coworkers, I don't remember the first time he got me Cheez-Its, but I know for sure that it's been at least 2 years. Like my birthday 2 years ago, he got me Cheez-Its because just sometime at some point I mentioned how much I like Cheez-Its, which is like true. Like I do really love Cheez-Its. I love Goldfish. I don't get them that often, but I do really love both of them. So at some time he remembers me saying that and then has like got me Cheez-Its for literally every special life event since then. So like on birthdays, I get boxes of Cheez-Its. Whenever I was taking my LCSW exam, I got back to my desk and there was a box of Cheez-Its that said like 4 LCSWs only because I passed, so I could have the Cheez-Its. I think he probably got me wedding Cheez-Its. I don't really remember. But any special day, there's a box of Cheez-Its that's waiting on my desk. Today, there's a Cheez-It pool float waiting on my desk. And he said too, he saw this in August and got it then and has just been like giggling to himself ever since then, waiting for my birthday. Literally 5 months he's been waiting on this thing, or waiting to give me this. Which truly, when I walked in, I didn't realize because like he had taped it back bag of Cheez-Its to like actual Cheez-Its to eat. I saw the huge box and I was like, that is the most Cheez-Its I have ever seen. And then I kind of started moving it around and it's like pretty heavy because it's a pool float. And I was like, wow, this is like a dense brick of Cheez-Its. No, it's a Cheez-Its pool float. Even has the nutrition facts on the side. Total relaxation 100%, stress 0, worries 0, vibes 100. I think that is so fun. Today was another busy day, but productive day. I met with the family that I was meaning to meet with about preparing for discharge and having resources after discharge and knowing like what's available so that then they're set up for success whenever they go home with their baby for the first time. I met with the family to listen to their concerns and provide advocacy to the medical team about worries that parents have and brainstorm, problem solve to see how we can lessen those concerns, address them, and prevent them from happening in the future. I continued collaboration with like child protection for one case that I have. I worked with a family for transportation assistance, and then I just stopped by a few of my families to check in, provide support, see if they needed anything. And everything really just added up. Lots of texts, lots of calls, pulling me different places. Everything added up to a busy day, but a good day. And since it's my birthday, we are gonna go out to eat for dinner. I was really undecided on where I wanted to go. I was thinking Mexican for a little bit, but then I might be getting Mexican later this week. So then I was thinking maybe I want a smoothie bowl. Like it's been a while since I have those and I really love those, but then I wasn't like totally sold on it because I was like, is that a good birthday dinner? I don't know. So what we're gonna do is go to Kamayan, Atlanta, which is a Filipino restaurant that's on the like Michelin guide. They're like category, I always forget what it's called, but they're category that's like cheaper, more casual restaurants that are still like recommended by the Michelin guide. They're on this, and I don't think I've ever had like true Filipino food, not that I can think of or not that I know of. And there's a lot of good gluten-free options for Zach too. So that's where we're gonna go for birthday dinner tonight. You may notice that that was Whole Foods and that was not the Filipino restaurant. And that would be because we got all the way there and they're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, and today's a Tuesday. Which usually, we were joking about, usually that happens for Zach's birthday. It has happened like 4 or 5 years that whatever plans we make are not able to happen for things like random restaurant closures or things like that. This one's not random, we just didn't see it. Even when looking at the maps like to get there, even when I was looking it up earlier today, did not see it. But Whole Foods was really good because I was talking today about how I wanted an egg roll, and then I also a few times lately have been wanting like grocery store high V. No, I was gonna say grocery store high chai. That's high V Chinese. A grocery store Chinese food. So that was lovely and delicious. And I got some cookies too from Whole Foods little
These are good.
Mixed cookie assortment. I know. So I knew you were gonna think that they were good, and that's why I asked for some to be left for me. This was a chocolate chip. Oh, I forget what word it said. I was trying to remember. Chocolate chip something or other. I got a raspberry pie cookie, and then I got a pistachio cookie. I've been loving the pistachio lately. That's what was in my coffee this morning too. Pistachio first. It's good. I'm probably gonna say that for all of them. This one's like a pastry on the inside. That's great too. Yep. Turns out they're all good. They are starting to predict a crazy ice storm happening this weekend, as in like a crippling ice storm, as in like over half an inch of ice. And so preparing for like power outages and things like that. Power lines snapping, which part of me is not taking it so seriously quite yet, or is like struggling to take it seriously, because last week they were talking about getting snow this past weekend and that didn't happen. Also, though, that wasn't predicted to be like a crazy blizzard. It was predicted to be like, oh, get ready we might have like a fun snow day. And then as the week progressed, the storm just moved more south. And so some places did get snow that I think was just fun. I don't think it was like crippling anywhere in the south. Whereas this ice storm would be an issue and is also like predicted to be pretty widespread across the south. And I found out that native Georgians apparently like Glenn Burns as far as a weatherman goes. Something I have learned since moving to southern states is that it seems like native people of these states have like their favorite weatherman, that they're like, this is the one that's accurate, and the loyalty to them is strong. In Alabama, that was James Spann. Here, I don't know if I've just like made it onto parts of TikTok that all are for Glenn Burns, but here apparently it's Glenn Burns. I don't know if this is like an everywhere thing or if it's just a southern state thing, because I did not know any weather people by name growing up in Missouri, but that also could have been just because I wasn't like conscious enough to need to be aware of the weather because I was a child. Anyways though, Glenn Burns, last week whenever everyone was talking about the possibility of getting snow this past weekend, he was like, don't even focus on that, don't worry about that. What you need to be thinking about is this ice storm that's coming up the weekend after. And now everyone else is talking about that ice storm too. And he's like, yeah, I told you. So beyond the normal ways that obviously like weather would just, if we lose power or anything, that would suck. The service is on Saturday that I was telling you about. It's a service of remembrance that is for families of children who have passed in the past year that we do annually. It's a really cool thing. People like drive in for it, and having ice would definitely probably affect that. So I don't know if they'll make a call on it maybe tomorrow, if it needs to get postponed or rescheduled, because right now it's different too of like when models are saying it'll start. Some are saying it'll start like later into Saturday, and some are saying like be ready Saturday morning, because I know things could be unexpected too. So that's something that's kind of on my mind, is just being aware that the weekend plans could change. Also, not used to these things yet. Also, at the hospital, this became relevant last year, and of the winters that I have worked here, was the first time that it became a thing. But whenever there is bad weather, they call it a code white, and I'm sure they have like teams of high up people who watch the weather and decide when it's going to be a code white. And before code whites, they like go on code white standby so that people can be ready and everything. But code white, if it is called due to the weather, is when every department goes to minimum staffing. So there are code white teams that basically have to report for their shift no matter what. And so what that usually means is arriving to the hospital before the weather starts so that you're there by the time your shift starts, and then you get paid during your like a lesser rate during your waiting to work hours, like if you are staying the night at the hospital. So last year they had 2 code whites happen. One was like the 2 weekends I think before our wedding, and then one was the Wednesday that was going to be when I first came back from my PTO after our wedding. So I just got like an extra day off essentially. If you're not on the code white team, you just have to use PTO because it's essentially the same as being like called off from a shift. I mean, I guess it is that. I am on code white team 2, meaning whatever the second code white is from now is when I would be expected to arrive and work. Though honestly, some people commute like really far into the job, and so it would be a lot easier if there is weather for me to arrive to work and not get stuck there than it would be for some other people. So if it does get cold, I think I'll check in with the team that's expected to arrive just to see if anybody needs to trade, swap, or just have me help. Because coming in before the weather starts is nice because then people get like paid to work, they work their shift, but you don't get like time after your shift ends, even if it's so bad that you can't go home. So that's kind of where people got tripped up last year, is that like they arrived for their shift, they stayed the night before, they worked their shift, but then they were stuck. So then it's like, you just have to stay a second night, but like you're not getting paid this time and you're not at home. So that's where it gets a little tricky. None of that's actively happening yet, and I think if there were to be a code white, it would be like maybe next Monday, depending on the ice that we get over the weekend. But I'm gonna be refreshing those little Glenn Burns Facebook page, and we'll see what happens. I always forget how exhausting my committee days are for me. So today's Thursday, but let me talk to you about Wednesday since we didn't catch up. Work was the same, just like productive and busy, not like too much, but I definitely had things to be doing the entire time that I'm there, and I definitely have notes to do whenever I get in today. But my committee yesterday it's called a Cardiac Family Advisory Council, and it has staff liaison members. So I'm like the social work representative, social work liaison that's on the council, and then it has parents of like past and current patients of the Heart Center, which is cool because they give lots of feedback and like insight and have discussions about things that are either being done that like need to be done in the Heart Center or that are currently in action, like process improvement, quality improvement, any new initiatives, like they give feedback on, which is super valuable insight to have. Sometimes the things are like less relevant to me, like if it's something to do with infection control or something like that, then usually I'm just listening. But I mean, I still pick up on good things just from hearing from people. Last night was super relevant to me, however, though, because I don't want to say working with, because she's been doing most of the work, but there's a fellow who is rolling out a social determinants of health screening for some of the services on our unit. I've been her like social work consultant, I would say, but she 100% is doing the majority of the work. But the social determinants of health screening, there are studies on, and it has shown that by implementing a universal screening, patients' families can feel more comfortable to disclose things that they're going through that could be affecting their child's health. So there's like a little blurb on top just explaining like what the screening is, the fact that it's offered to everybody. It's offered on paper so that families can complete it in privacy because that feels more comfortable for disclosure. And then it also says that a social worker may follow up with you to see if there's any additional resources you could be connected with. And then the questions that it asks are all grade 5 or below reading level. There's 2 that ask about food insecurity. There's one about housing insecurity. There's ones about transportation. There's one about utilities, and there's one about missing medications. So it's things that it's like, in the past 12 months, have you or your family ever gone hungry and not have another way to get food? Or in the past 12 months, has your child missed a dose of medication or you've not filled a prescription due to the cost? Has your child missed their medical appointments due to transportation in the past 12 months? Things like that. Because then if families choose to disclose in the form that they're going through some of those things, it gives an additional safety net, because those are things that come up in conversation already. Like if I'm meeting families, I'm already assessing for barriers, but not always everything comes up and not every family I get to see. And so this is like an additional safety net that can open the door to conversations. And there's so many more social determinants of health, but we wanted to limit it to things that we could actually maybe have resources for. So I mean, for food insecurity, I check that a family knows what SNAP is. I check that a family knows what WIC is if their child is young enough. And I look for like food pantries that are close to their home that maybe they do know about, maybe they don't know about, so that they at least have, like, if we're in an emergent situation where we just don't have food and we don't have enough food, like here are maybe some things that could help in that situation. Obviously not like a perfect system, and the hospital can't fix like every chronic thing that a family is going through, but in the ways that it affects a child's care. Because for instance, if someone has housing insecurity, the likelihood of me being able to fix that for them is low. But if their child has a chronic medical condition that requires medication, maybe it requires medical equipment, it requires outpatient follow-ups, it does become like, if you're not at a permanent address, like how can we help so that your child can still get the follow-up care that they need? For example, most people, if they need medical equipment, will have it shipped to their home. But if you're living in a hotel or if you're moving around through addresses, like is it easier to go pick up the equipment for you? Or do you have like a trusted friend or a trusted family member that it could be shipped to their home and you get it from them? Just like being creative with it instead of families feeling like they have to try to navigate those things alone. It's kind of the idea. It just opens the door to conversations for maybe people who either wouldn't have encountered social work when they're in the hospital anyways, or maybe don't feel comfortable starting the conversation face to face with somebody. So we got a lot of feedback on it last night too. Some of the feedback being like, how do you know if a family is being truthful on it? And the answer to that is people can answer truthfully if they want to, or they don't have to answer truthfully. Like if someone is going through those things but marked no through all of them, I'm not gonna come and be like, are you really? Like you're sure none of them was a yes? But if there are people who are going through those things and want to disclose those social determinants of health, like it's another avenue to do so. We did get feedback on the way that the form is like handed back, and that maybe it would feel uncomfortable if you mark yes and then just like hand it straight back to your nurse who then you're spending 12 hours with. So we talked about maybe having like a drop box or having like a place in the room where it's just like, when you're finished with this, you can put it over here, or just something like that. So that it still removes that element of, I mean, the effect, like if we were asking these questions like face to face with someone, like if we were having the nurse say like, in the past 12 months, have you not had enough food at home? That can be harder to say yes to, which is why it's a screening that they fill out on their own on paper. But then just removing that additional like awkwardness if a family may feel it, of instead of the nurse saying like, are you done with that, picking it up and like looking at it while they're there, just being able to like set it somewhere. They did talk about like if there was a way to make it even more automated, to where maybe instead of social work follow-up, it would be like, if you select yes to this question, then you get like this packet or something. And while that could be something to consider, I don't like it because there's so many different resources that have so many different eligibilities, and there's different funding for different things at different points, and there are different applications that are tough, and there are different applications that are easy, and different things are worth different people's time depending on who they are and what they need. And that was something where it kind of clocked in my head. I was like, I don't think people all the way understand what I do. Which I feel like is kind of typical in social work sometimes. But it was believed by a lot of people, like, why would a social worker need to see them? If they click yes, then they could just get like this PDF list. I was like, well, that takes away some of my effect. That takes away some of the assessment and compiling and planning and working with the family that they could have. Because some feedback too was like, if people handed me a packet of resources when I'm already overwhelmed, I don't want to go through them. I don't want to have to figure out more applications that I have to do and all of that. And I did get the chance to a little bit explain of like, that would not be the goal. The goal would be, if there's something that you don't already know about that could be helpful, how can I help make it easier for you to access that thing? But also, and I'm sure you can probably imagine this too, like families who are on the advisory council have additional time and means to be able to be on that council. And even if in the past they may have been affected by some of the social determinants of health that we're talking about, the families that are currently affected by the most are not the ones that are on the council. But it is good to hear feedback, and it's good to hear feedback from everybody. So that was interesting. And that was like one of the more relevant committee meetings that I've had. Because like I said, sometimes I'll just like sit and listen because it's things that like really affect me less. But this one, I was answering questions. Okay. I got quesadillas for breakfast this morning. Our service of remembrance has officially been rescheduled from this weekend. It's not going to be Saturday anymore because the chances of an ice storm is just going up, or is becoming more certain at least. And so we are discussing like the weather preparedness team at work. Our service is going to be rescheduled. I don't know yet for when. And I'm actually on team 1 now to go in if we need to for weather, because there was someone on there that has like a 7-month-old at home, or someone under 1. She has a baby at home. So it didn't make sense. Like, I can so much easier go stay the night at the hospital if needed than she can. Last night, I dreamed about work to-dos because I have so many to do today. Yesterday was just so busy. It's just really picked up. I feel like it just comes in waves sometimes of like, it's picked up now with my ICU. Like, I have a lot of ICU patients, and so a lot of support type things that I'm doing with so many different people that it just like really piles into a day. And a lot of yesterday is going to go into today too. And I'm not stressed about it. Like, all the to-dos should be fine. But apparently I was like stressed enough about it to have, I dreamed about it last night. Today was another busy one. If you can't tell by my bangs, like that's the new gauge. I'm about to go get dressed and ready because we actually are going to a Hawks game tonight, which I'm very excited for. Super busy day at work today. Can you believe I'm saying that? I guess we just had to round out the week like we started it. I did a lot today. It also felt busier because I hadn't done any notes from yesterday, so I just had this like pile of notes already waiting for me when I got in, and then I did a lot, and so then I had an even bigger pile of notes. But I think one of the more notable things I did today was I helped a family, well, I arranged for a family a conference that could pull in like all of the doctors that they needed to talk to get just like all sorts of questions answered that I think was really beneficial and a good use of time, and I think really helpful to the family. Something that's really easy to fall into, definitely in healthcare, but I also feel like probably no matter where you work as a social worker, is your everyday, like your work day, are other people's like most monumental times of their lives. Oftentimes, like for me, I like wake up, I go to work, I clock in, and I'm like, oh, I'm in the ICU. Whereas for other people, those are like some of the defining times of their lives. And I think sometimes healthcare can fall into like, oh, this is just our routine and we're just like giving you updates or like communicating in ways as if it's just like another day. And sometimes it's really helpful to like take a step back and give parents like space and time to talk through all of the things that they think about whenever they're thinking of their child, because they're not just thinking of, oh, what changes are we making today? They're thinking about like, how do I support them when they start kindergarten? Like, what kind of teenager will they be like? And obviously when they're infants in the hospital, the medical team's not necessarily thinking about that. And not that all of those questions can be answered, but there are more longitudinal things that are definitely impacted by the reasons that children are needing to be in the hospital, that sometimes it's good to just like take a zoom out, talk about the whole complete care of a child, not just like the exact presenting problems of that day, and that can be really beneficial for families. So I got to do that today and it felt very rewarding, and I did end up getting all of my notes done, but I'm gonna get dressed because we're leaving, like I said, quite soon for the Hawks game. And this weekend, still planning on being in the ice storm. Zach went grocery shopping today. I think whenever we get home from the Hawks game tonight, I'm gonna look for my like portable battery to see if I can charge that up. I haven't seen it in a while, but I feel like that would be a good thing to do before the ice storm. They're telling us to expect power outages and things. I obviously hope not. I hope that's not going to be true, but we'll just have to see. And then hopefully maybe just have like a cozy, warm weekend in, since the service of remembrance isn't happening. And when they called it on Wednesday to cancel that, I was, well, one, disappointed, but two, kind of felt like it was a little early to call it. They made the right call. They made the right call. bangs. So they have officially called the weather code. I'm trying to do things around the house this morning, like these piles of laundry will get put away. I've been doing loads. I've been running the dishwasher, cleaning dishes, everything, because I feel like if we do get iced in, it just feels nicer and like an already kind of clean home to where then we could just like be cozy. But they have officially called the weather code. It's going to start at noon today. It's Saturday. So like I said, they really made the right call with canceling our service or rescheduling our service, even though I am bummed because that was something I've been planning for. The precipitation, I do not believe is supposed to start until this evening / like overnight is when it gets heavy, and that's also when the temperatures drop, which is why it is concerning for ice. I am on the weather team, which I do believe we have talked about, and I'm about to make like not some complaints, but I'm about to make some observations. And I will say I'm not complaining the fact that I'm on the weather team because I do think better me than other people, but I have some like things to think through. So the way they're doing it, the weather code starts today, which is Saturday. They are expecting it to go into Monday. Being on the like weather response team, I wouldn't be required to go in until Monday. So they have people there today, Saturday. They'll have a different set of people there Saturday night. They'll have a different set of people there Sunday day, different set of people there Sunday night, different set of people there Monday day, that would be me, and a different set of people there Monday night, which hopefully maybe Monday gets, I don't think it's supposed to get warm. Hopefully the roads get better by Monday. And on Monday, I'm 11 to 8:30 or 11:30 to 8. That's what I am. 11:30 to 8. So you always hear about people like staying the night over at the hospital. In my head, usually that was like you get there before the weather starts, and that's when you're staying the night, and then you work. And I feel like what would make sense to me, they did not pay me the millions of dollars to make these decisions, so no one is asking me. I feel like what makes sense to me is that if you have a weather response team, they come in before the weather starts, stays the night, and then they're working until the weather code is done. And that's where it's like maybe you have a day shift and a night shift who work their shift, sleep at the hospital, work their shift so that there's coverage, but also so that people aren't like on the roads when they're dangerous. That is not how they're doing it. They're doing it, like I said, to where there's the different groups of people each time. So the staying the night over is like to ensure that you don't miss your shift. I guess it's just like to get you there early. It's optional. It's just like you cannot miss your shift during the weather emergency response, but they do pay for like ready to work hours up to 12 hours from when your shift starts. So if you get to the hospital 12 hours before your shift starts, you get a like lower ready to work hour. That's $15 an hour, which is not nothing. Like to sleep, that's not nothing. But since my shift is 11:30 to 8, that means my like ready to work hours wouldn't start till 11:30 p.m. Sunday night. And I just don't think that it's going to be safer. Like I think it's just going to be a lot of people on the roads whenever things are icy and dangerous. Because if things are icy enough to not have a hospital at full operations, that's a lot of groups of people that you're having like come and leave and come and leave and come and leave. I don't know, I feel like my way makes more sense if like you just stay. But with how it is and with how the weekend is and everything, yeah, I wouldn't be expected to come in until Monday. Monday, 11:30 to 8. I have the option to stay the night before, which I think will entirely depend on what like actually happens in the ice tomorrow. But depending on what it is right now, like I don't necessarily think it'll be better to drive in at like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. and even that's earlier than my ready to work hours than it will be to drive in at like 10 a.m. the next day. Like I get ice can refreeze overnight and that could not be as good, but I don't know. I guess that's where it just totally depends on the ice of like what levels it is. I think the roads are just going to be slick. I think there's going to be slick and dangerous, no matter if I stay the night at the hospital or if I go in the morning that my shift actually is. It just is really weird to me how many like changing of the guards they have of different groups of people, all of which will then be driving on the dangerous roads to get to and from work. Like it seems like that's just kind of like almost a regular work day. Like a lot of people are called off and that's what it's different. It's like minimum staffing instead of full staffing. But even still in my head, I'm like, I feel like the whole point of the weather responsiveness thing is that like you wouldn't have people on the roads whenever the roads are dangerous, but you'd still have people at work to cover need. And that's why the people stay at work instead of like, oh, for fun, you could come and stay the night before if you want to. But the roads are just going to be like, by the time it gets to me, the roads are just going to be slick and dark at night, or slick because it refroze overnight and the sun has like been up for 2 hours. Both of those are just slick. Depending on the levels of ice, I may just walk because I think the whole route has grass. And so unless we get like an inch, I should be able to walk just fine on icy grass. And again, like I said, better me than other people with kids or people who are pregnant, like all of those things. I feel fine being one with my name on the list. But I also would have been fine if it was like, okay, you come to work before it gets slick outside and you stay and you work until roads are safe enough again. I don't know. What makes sense to you? I keep seeing like TikToks about funny hospitals during this time, and how it was last year was that people who were staying during the weather code would get like 3 meals a day. Actually, I think that was it. That was the incentive. You get 3 meals a day, which does make sense if you are like there to stay through the whole thing. Like, okay, yes, please feed me because I'd be working and then sleeping and then working and then sleeping and then working all while staying there. But as of yesterday, they reduced it to where you only get 2 meals a day. And if you want a third, you have to bring stuff for your third, which like for me, if I really am just like going in on Monday morning when it's slick and then leaving Monday night when it's dark and slick, it doesn't matter how many meals you feed me. I don't know. I just feel like the whole thing doesn't quite make sense to me. We'll figure it out. And today's just gonna be like cozy ice storm prep. TBD on everything, because I mean, it all totally depends on even like the levels of ice that we get. I still have not found my phone battery. I'm gonna like actually dedicate more time looking for that. I feel like that's my like one preparedness thing that I can do is make sure I have like a portable battery for my phone in case power goes out. I guess if power goes out, I'll go stay at the hospital. They have power. All of this is hypothetical though. Check outdoors. I want to see if it started raining yet. Ooh, it is cold. I moved, I don't know if you can tell, I moved like all our stuff on the balcony over to this side because, I don't know, certainly want everything to get like soaked and frozen. It looks like there's a little bit of like moisture. I think it's dusted so far. By no means all that it will be doing. Zach's right in there gaming. You want to go say hi to him? I feel like that's snow sky. That shelf was almost the death of me. It always is, and that's why we take months to put it up at any new apartment that we move to. It's like you have to line things up literally perfectly or it just won't go in. There's no room for error at all. So totally honest, how that shelf is right now, of the left, middle, and right screw, the left and middle are in, the right is not. It seems sturdy enough, and I didn't have it in me to do a new hole. We were so close to being right, and I used a little post-it method that I've used before to get the screws exactly where they need to go. It's worked perfectly before. Did not work today. Bummed about that. Ice update. It is icy out there. I don't think it's as much as it could have been, but apparently it's supposed to precipitate more this afternoon, starting in like an hour and a half, and then temperatures will super drop overnight, which I do fear is pushing me closer towards sleeping over at the hospital tonight. And by pushing me closer, I'm meaning I am coming to terms with the fact that I will not be sleeping in my own bed tonight and will be fighting for my life there. But I think that that will be a very fun vlog. At least I'm trying to tell myself it will be. I think all of you will watch that. I think if I post a video that's like weekly vlog, winter storm, sleeping over at the hospital, I think all of you will watch it. So look forward to that. I'm sorry that these 7 days as a social worker did not end up quite how we planned. Like, we still did a lot of things, and I think we talked about some good insights and everything. Obviously the service was canceled, which I was bummed about because that was like my whole reason of making this video this time, but we'll just have to do it again whenever we reschedule the service for. And thanks for, we celebrated my birthday this week. I keep forgetting that. I'm 26 now. So thanks for being here for that too. We've survived a week having bangs. Something's not going right with them right now, but I don't know them well enough yet to figure out how to make something go right whenever it's not. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe before you go anywhere. Thanks for spending these moments with me, and I'll see you next time when I'm sleeping in the hospital.